Hello and welcome, it's Pete here again. I'm not wearing a watch today. I don't need one because it's Tim time. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Today, I'm going to be looking at one of the sets from Tim's second Vault release, and that is Vault Boutique. I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but yeah, this is up there. It's so usable, it's so versatile. It's the sort of set that is going to stay in your stash forever and a day. So we'll talk a bit more about the Vault and what that's all about. But as I always say, if you really want to know, go to timholtz.com or go to the Sizzix Tim Holtz Hub, and you will see Tim explaining this collection in chapter and verse, and you'll be able to see some of the wonderful makes from his team. So without further ado, let's get going. So this is our set. This is Vault Boutique. You can see, as with all Tim's die, they come with their own plastic wallet, and there is storage available to put all these lovely wallets in. And you can keep your artwork as well with the dies, which is very useful indeed. These are the dies in all their glory. You can see we have this wonderful swirly flower. More about that later. We have the 2 leaves, no less than 7 different butterflies. This used to be much bigger. So let me just tell you a little bit about the Vault. These all come from different sets. These, I happen to remember, were Big's dies. This one came from a flower set. This was much bigger, if memory serves. This came from a decorative strip, for those of you who have very long memories. This was a Big's die as well, I think. So they've all come from, but they're all resized and repackaged to work together. It's a wonderful concept. So thank you to Tim for putting these together and spending so much care, time and attention on that. Now, let's take a look at what I'm going to be using today, because today I'm going to be making something. I just want to use white card. There are so many techniques that come into play, so many colors, so many processes, so many mediums that we can use to get the best out of these dies. But sometimes, sometimes just a bit of white card does the trick. So let's take some of the dies that I want to cut. I'm going to take these. I'll leave my butterflies for now, and that one there. I've already pre-cut that one. So I'll take that away, and I'm going to bring in, now I'll use a couple of machines today actually. This is my Tim Holtz Foldaway. It's called a Foldaway because, well, it folds away. It's exactly the same as the Sizzix Foldaway, but of course it's in a really cool, black, mean-looking Tim Holtz machine. But everything else, the functionality, if you're used to a big shot, then this is second nature. Let's take a piece of card. So I'll just tear a piece of white card off, and this is what I'm going to use to cut all of these dies. Now, incidentally, if you want to get extra depth, extra dimension, if you want to make them more sturdy, you can double cut some of these elements and stick them together. So when you mount them onto your project, it's much, much sturdier. Obviously, cardstock is a bit wibbly wobbly at the best of times, so that's a good little tip. So let's run them through the machine, like so. Pop them out the other end, and that should be it, all cut together. And then you just pop those out, and they'll be ready to attach to your project. Now, I have pre-cut most of these anyway, but I want to show you particularly this flower. This is a great die. If you've not used one of these type flowers before, you won't believe how cool that comes out when we put it through the techniques using the tools we're going to use. But that's pretty much everything I need. I did want to cut the butterflies as well. And I'll pop this to one side, because to do my butterflies, I'm actually going to use another machine. And I wanted to bring this machine in purposely because it's a serious little machine. This was the first roller machine. So this is kind of back from the Vault as well, the Sidekick. This came out in, now if memory serves, I'm going to say 2003, maybe 2004, not entirely sure. But it looks kind of small and insubstantial, but it has this wonderful suction foot. So you place that lever down and that is not going anywhere. That is more stable than the big old switch. It's there for good, in place. Let's take a piece of card and now I'm going to cut all my little butterflies. So I'll pop that. These are the two cutting mats that come. And you know what? With Sizzix dies, I think the only die that won't cut in the Sidekick from this set is the doily. Everything else will fit through the Sidekick, and the majority of dies will. Now, it's called the Sidekick for a very good reason. Sometimes you just want to do something like this. Maybe you don't have a bespoke craft room. Maybe you have to pack all your stuff away at the end of the day, so your machine is not always to hand. That's where having something like this comes in handy. You use it alongside your larger machines or indeed instead of. It's also a great travel companion. Now, if like me, you live in the UK and say you want to go to the caravan for the weekend and the weather isn't always the best, so take your Sidekick along. You never know when it might come in handy. So the rest of the family's miserable and you're crafting away. But there we are. All those butterflies cutting up. Look at this piece that comes out. That's waste. But it's not. We can use that. And I'm going to talk about that in a little while. So I've cut everything. It's all ready to go. Let's pop. Now there is a die pick to do this, but I'm just going to use my tweezers just to pop that out there. So that's one of many butterflies. Now, let's take my kit. I love this storage bag. It's fantastic. It has all my Tim Holtz stuff in it. So there's my molding mat, and we've got these two wonderful tools for giving dimension to your florals. I've got a brayer in here. I've got my die brush. I've got my die pick. I've got these scissors. Oh my goodness, these go back quite a way. I think actually Tim gave me these at the end of a trade show once. But yep, so all my Tim Holtz tools go in there, and I'll just pop that off to one side because with the flower. What I want to do, because this is quite hard cardstock, so when I go into it with this ball end stylus, what this does, it softens the card. So when I come to work this card, it gives it a far more naturalistic look, because we are working with flowers here, folks, so the more natural I can make them look, the better. And let's come in from the back, because what we're actually doing here, what was a very tough flat card, we're breaking down the fibers, we're making it softer, thereby easier to work with. There we are. Now, I just had a thought. Did I put my tweezers? Where's my tweezers? You know what? If I had £1 for every time I do that. Anyway, nil desperandum. Let's use these tweezers. Now, what I'm going to do with this flower is take it and put the tweezers there right on the outside. And I'm going to roll that. Now, with the needle nose tweezers from the Tim Holtz kit, it's much, much easier. But it just goes to show with a little perseverance, we can get results. So I'm just twisting and twisting and twisting. And I usually twist it like that against my thumb. So this is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You don't want to pack it too tight. But once you get it to this point, so that's all rolled up, you just let it relax and open up naturally. So we're getting a gorgeous, gorgeous little rose. I hope you can see that. Now, before I do anything else, we're not quite finished with this. I'm going to take my glue gun and I'm going to add a little blob of hot glue into the center, like so, and just close that up. Now that's going to hold the whole thing in place. So there's my rose, but I'm going to take those tweezers and you see the edges of the petals. I'm going to selectively, I'm not going to do it to every single one, just to a few. You can do it at an angle, it doesn't really matter. As long as it looks good for you, there is no right or wrong. So, but it gives you this wonderful, and you can even use your thumbs to take some of those back to get the dimension. Wow, that's looking great. That is so cool. It really is. So there's our flower. Now, if you wanted to create a smaller flower, simply cut half of the swirl away and roll it up as before, and you will get smaller roses. Just to show you what I mean, I'll pop that there, and let's take a few that I created earlier. So that's the same die, but just a half of the flower. So there's a medium one, a large one, and a couple of small ones. So we'll use those a bit later. Now, the leaves, same kind of thing. So that's what we call cupping. So that kind of domes it. But again, we're softening it, we're breaking down the fibers. What I'm going to do, let's take my tweezers, put it in the center like that, and I'm going to twist this, okay, like so. So what it does, it creates that lovely kink in the leaf and makes it look more natural. And then you would take that and attach it with some hot glue under there. So let's not talk about it, let's actually do that. So you can use the 2 sizes of leaves. If you prefer, you can use the 1, you can use 3. There's no rights or wrongs. Just choose where you want to pop that leaf. And there it is, and that's it, all in place. And there's our wonderful little rose. Now, let's bring in all of the different elements, because I'm going to go back to this black card so that you can see everything clearly, because now it's about composition. Now it's about putting these down in such a way that they look fantastic. Oh, one other thing I forgot to show you was the butterflies, actually. So we'll go back in a second and do that. So the swirls, again, I've cut this double thickness. So this is twice as thick. There are 2 there, and I've stuck them together. So that gives them a little bit more rigidity. Now, remember the die brush. If you've got a die like this, the die brush will pay for itself, because to pop out all those little pieces individually, I mean, really, people, life is just too short for that. But you know what? Let's show you the mat again, because I wanted to talk about the lovely butterflies. And let's take the larger of the 2. And what I'm going to do, you see, I'm going along the wing like that, and the same there. Then I take my tweezers down the center of the body and push that up, and that creates that gorgeous little dimensional butterfly. And we'll pop that down there. Now, those are the elements. I don't know how I'm going to use them yet. We'll figure it out as we go along. But I want to put them on a background, because if you put them onto white card, sure, it can look really cool, and I have done that. I've done that quite often. But when you put it against a white background, it's fantastic. A colored background, rather. It's phenomenal. Now, this I created using various smooching techniques and what have you, with distress inks. There's old paper in there, there's pumice stone, there's, oh goodness me, there's brushed corduroy. I can't remember the exact colors there, but that was the basis. So they'd kind of look cool on top of that, but I wanted to do something else. I wanted to add a little more depth to it. So what I did is I stamped onto this, okay, and I kind of cut it into 4 pieces. Now, there's no right or wrong here. It's however many you want to do. So you see that is my original. That's the size. Then I stamped it, and you'll also notice that I inked around the edges with a darker ink. I think this was walnut stain, just to give it that edge. Right, but there's one more thing. There's one more thing. Let's put those to one side. You can see on these, I actually distressed the edges. So there's a bit of white coming out. And that helps, when you're putting these together, that really helps to differentiate between them. It really helps to add contrast. And contrast is quite important, particularly when you're working with things that are heavily patterned or heavily detailed. So that's my background. And I'm going to take that now and I know where most of my elements are going to sit around here. So let me take that. And I'm going to use, because I want to keep that sort of depth, I'm going to use tweezers. And you can see that this is kind of standing proud. But that is going to be covered up. And let's put this one down here, perhaps. Come in again with my tweezers. Now, I could use all three. It doesn't really matter. There is no sort of hard and fast rule about this. There is no sort of plan. There's a basic plan, but that's part of the joy of creating these things, is you just don't know where it's going to go until you're done. And it's about moving things around, getting that sense of balance. I think my frame is probably going to be my central focus. So I want to have this maybe somewhere in the background, but I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm not going to use the whole thing. So I'm going to cut this down to size. And you know what? I have got boxes and boxes and boxes of what we call leftovers, but it's not waste. It can be used again at another time. So that lives to fight another day. So let's think, I can put that there like that, and maybe get the frame coming about here. Does that look about right? There's no rights or wrongs, are there? So let's take that. And again, now, I'll grab my tweezers and we'll come in and we'll just pop one like so. Now this one, what I'll do, I'll take some of these little foam squares and just, I'll cut into that because I'm only going to be using half a foam square. And again, it's about depth. It's about dimension. It's about using light and shadow. It's about, and that's why I like to have that depth and dimension. So when I was talking about not sticking those down flat, if you saw the difference between what I'm doing now and one that is actually stuck down flat, they're like chalk and cheese. They really are. This is by far the best method in my experience. If you know differently, then please let us know. But we'll take the backing off. There we are. There's lovely little foam pads. And I'm going to pop this somewhere like that. Now, this is an important juncture because the larger pieces are where I always start. And then from here on in, I go smaller, smaller, smaller. But this is where you want to start. So let's bring my glue gun in again because I'm going to look at some of these flowers. Let's get one of the, so there. Now I might use all of them. I might use half of them. It will sort of like, we'll decide as we kind of go along. What's working? What's looking good? I think I want to get, because we're kind of in the center. So let's get that one and pop it there. And we can see, because we've got dimension, even though it's just white, wow, it's really showing through. Now let's take this. Now there's an argument here that I should have stuck this one down first. And that's probably right, but there you go. So that's going to come down like that. That's kind of pleasing to the eye. I like the way that's working. So I'm going to try and mirror that here with this one. And again, a little blob of hot glue, and that can come off the end like that. Now, let's take some of those smaller flowers, kind of like that one there, and maybe one bigger one to go alongside it. Again, I'm kind of making it up as I go along. It's you know, there's no right or wrong. It's all about how you feel. If I did this tomorrow, it would be completely different. And at the end of this, I'll show you one that I did before, and it's kind of quite different. So I like that. I like the way that's working. But you can see everything's going on here, nothing going on there. That's where the humble butterfly comes in, because we're going to start off again slightly smaller. I'll use my glue gun pop that in there. Having this extra long nozzle on the glue gun actually makes things a whole lot easier. There we are, a bit more glue. And all those stringy bits that inevitably come off your glue gun, don't worry, we can tidy that away later. There we are. So those two are quite close together. And now I'm going to start spreading them out a bit. A bit more glue, that one there. Then we'll take one and put it onto the frame. I think so they're getting further and further apart. And then finally, let's take one of the larger ones and pop that there. Now, so that one is actually coming off the edge of the card. That works for me, it does. But I think I am going to take a smaller one and put it there. That gives me the visual balance that I'm looking for. And it's all about what you want to do with these dies. It's not about what I want to do with them. It's not about what Tim wants to do with them. It's about what you see when you look at one of these wonderful sets. Now, obviously, look at this. Maybe we could put a sentiment in there. But like I said, here's one that I made earlier. We've got a sentiment down there, so we left some space for there. Slightly different. I've used the 4 strips on this one. You know, so again, there's no hard and fast rules. But having that white against that color really, really does pay dividends. And at this point, let's just share a few more of these with you. This was a frame that I did. We got a lovely embossing folder in the background there. We used the whole doily, one of Tim's fantastic stamps. Then this is another one. Now we talked about different mediums, different colors. This is acrylic, so all of this has been colored with acrylic. It's even been stamped with acrylic, that one. And then let's take, now this one is using the flowers. What I like, one thing that I really do love, is mixing things from the natural world with industrial looking things. And these cogs, they come from another collection, and this is called Vault Watch Gears. So you're getting this pocket watch. These work with one of the domes, actually, the large dome. So if you want to create a domed watch, you can. You got the hands, you've got all these different numbers. We are going to be looking at this set in another video. But having those cogs alongside the flowers and the butterflies and what have you, I kind of like that. And just some inking underneath, just some distress inks. Now, let's look at this set again, because we've got 7 little butterflies. And you might look at the bigger elements in this and just cast those aside, but that humble little butterfly, let's talk about what we can do. So how about something like this? And this is just black and white. This is just using light and shadow, so you can see where I've cut them all out there. And we put the big one on. Why fit in when you were born to stand out? Yes, it's you I'm talking about. Now, how about this next one? Again, just a simple ink background underneath, cut all these butterflies out, and we're using the negative rather than the positive. So not the die cut, but what is left behind afterwards. And then this one, this is really cool. I did have another one with a frame with loads of butterflies coming out, but we'll talk about that again sometime. My favorite color is rainbow, and this is just using distress inks, creating an ombre rainbow background and cutting those butterflies out. But what am I going to do with the background? This card, this next one, was literally made with the waste. So I cut out a ton of butterflies, which I used for another project, and I had this strip of card. And you can see it's even slightly wonky-donkey. I've cut this with scissors. So I thought, what the heck? And I just slapped it onto a white card. And, you know, you could argue that it's the best of the lot. And that is using the leftovers. That is using the waste. That is using the simplest, most humble die from this set. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Like I say, the vault is it's the gift that keeps on giving. This set alone is so usable. But if you do want to find out more about the vault, and the concept behind it and how everything works together so seamlessly, then go to timholtz.com or sizzix.co.uk, sizzix.com, depending which region you're in, and you'll be able to find that overview where Tim is talking about the individual sets, and you'll be able to see some of the fantastic makes by his team. It doesn't always have to be about a riot of color and techniques. Sometimes we can rein it in and keep it really simple. I like both. It doesn't really matter. But it's about the creativity that it gives us makers and where we can take it to that next level, wherever that level may be. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll see you again soon.